Welcome to the Pantheon Parenthetical. My name is Lance Ash. There was one building downtown that was different than all the others in that it displayed an evidently mid-century modern design. All the other buildings were from 100 years ago or more. I was curious about this place because there was no indication on the outside what the building originally was for, or indeed what it was used for now. So I put on what I considered to be a disguise of clothing that would not have been out of place for sale at the Chess King, which was a mid-'80s mall-based clothing retailer. And I went down there and walked in. Now, the interior of this shop, establishment, whatever it was an almost completely empty white room, just a box, essentially. It was mustard-colored shag carpeting, pile carpeting, whatever you want to call it. White walls, except for one section of the back wall, which was sort of charcoal gray. There was one wooden desk near the entrance, behind which sat a young woman who looked a little bit like Gwyneth Paltrow, but without the freckles on her nose. And then there was one white sofa further down against the left-hand wall. There was a series of framed photographs on each wall leading to the back. These photographs appeared to be someone's family photographs, candids, enlarged. The young lady behind the desk asked me, "Can I help you?" And I, rather suavely I think, responded, "I think it is rather that I perhaps can help you." I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a transparent Ziploc bag containing a half-burned cigar. I held it up. Her mouth went slightly agape and her eyes grew larger. I asked, "Is this the one thing that is keeping this scene from perfection?" She said, "I think you'd better talk to Mr. Rugburn." She picked up the phone, pressed a button, waited, and then said, "Mr. Rugburn, she put her hand over the mouthpiece. "What is your name?" I said, "It's Vance Anthony." She said, "There's a Mr. Anthony here who would like to speak with you." "Yes, that's right." "Yes." She put the phone back in its cradle. "Go on back," she said. I walked to the back of the room where the carpet ended. There was a section of the floor where there was one step down to a polished wooden landing. This is where the door opened. There was a black metal door set into this charcoal gray section of the wall. I looked back at the lady at the desk with a questioning look, as if to ask, "Do I knock first or go straight in?" She nodded. "Go straight in." Upon passing through the doorway, I found myself in a long hallway leading back to an emergency exit. On the left side of the hall was naked plywood covered with torn and jagged collection of papers and pages taped and stapled to its surface all the way down. On the right-hand side, there were 3 doorways, each of which led into the same large storeroom on the right. I went into the first of these doorways and was confronted by an older man seated at a makeshift work table. He looked a little bit like Thomas Edison. He was cutting pictures out of old magazines and sifting and sorting the clippings around on the work table. I approached him and began reaching for the cigar. But before I could pull it out, he said to me, "I just can't decide. I just can't decide." I took a stab in the dark and said, "Between the Ivy League look and that of the post-hippie era?" He said, "Between Genesis and Kiss." And that brings us to the end of this episode, so thank you very much for listening.